Hi, welcome to Jay's Permaculture Allotment. So I'm going to be doing the August update tour of the food forest. So remember, this food forest, I started it in January of this year, so 2020. And as you see by the first video, it was just an overgrown mess. There was 5 established trees in here, but they were not in good condition, because again they had been neglected. So I basically prepped all the ground, made the beds, put a layer of mushroom compost and then a deep layer of leaf mulch, and then I planted the annuals into the top layers. But then obviously the other perennials, so extra trees that I've planted and shrubs, they go a little bit deeper, so they're planted into the main soil underneath, but all the nutrients from above will also be going into that as well. So let's have a tour and I'll show you some of the things I'll be doing. So starting off with the tomatoes. Okay, so the tomatoes that I planted in the food forest are determinate, which means they only grow to a set height. They produce a certain amount of food and then they die back. So the variety that I planted here are silver fir trees, so they're delicious. And the good thing about them is that most of the determinate tomatoes tend to be cherry tomatoes, which are okay, but I prefer a bigger tomato. So as you can see here, pick this one. As you can see, that's a decent sized tomato, and I've got pretty big hands. So what I'm going to be doing is gradually pulling out these plants. This is another one of the same variety, but you can see the size difference in tomatoes. There were some big ones on here, but because it's coming towards the end of its life, they're just small ones. Still nice, but there's another one here. So again, over the next week I'll be pulling these out, and instead of just leaving gaps, I will be interplanting other things. I've got what have I got started already? I've got some more okra, because my first lot got nobbled by slugs. I've also got cucumbers, I've got beetroots, I've got some more courgettes, because courgettes, again, they keep going for a certain amount of time and then they start going a bit yucky. So I'll pull out the old ones and then replace them with new ones, because you can have courgettes within sort of 45-50 days from them germinating. So they've already germinated, so they'll be able to go straight in the next few days or so. So globe artichoke's doing well. You can see the bees adore them. And again, this one was grown from seed this year, so it's impressive to know that you can get such a big structural plant fruiting all in one year. Then one of my Canna edulis is flowering, which is great, because I didn't know if they would flower in their first year. And then Roselle hibiscus. Now, in warmer climates, they tend to grow to a big sort of 5-foot shrub, but I'm just pleased that they're growing at all over here, because again, they did catch a little bit of frost earlier in the year and they're not frost tolerant. So the fact that they have already been producing flowers, and both the leaves, the calyx and the flowers are all edible. So on this I'll wait a few more days and then this will be ready for picking. You can make teas and things out of them. There's also a drink called, in places like America and and Mexico, they call it Jamaica because it is a Jamaican drink that they make from it. So really high in vitamin C, also high in pectin. So I've got several of those. I've got some that are in the food forest, and then I've also got some in my raised bed over on the other plot. These Gaillardia. Again, Gaillardia are a perennial flower, so these are from seed this year. So sometimes with perennials you have to wait for the second year for them to start flowering, but no, these are all from seed this year. And again, the bees love them. And I like these at all the stages, so the petals gradually grow outwards from the main center till they get to this stage, and then the petals fall off and you get the seed heads starting, and then when the seed heads are dry, that goes white and fluffy, and then you just rub it with your fingers and it'll all go flying, and you can have a lot more of these. My dahlias, again, these are all from seed. As you can see, grown into a strong mighty plant. This one's marshmallow, so what the sweets used to actually be made from on this. As you can see, the flowers are pretty. The bees love these as well. These are some echinacea from seed this year. So they are biennial, so they'll start flowering from next year. And then remember the tomato lychee, the spiky tomato. So you can see there's all the fruits in their cases. Just as well I got gloves on because they are spiky. But as you can see, the leaves are spiky both on top and underneath. So not many things are gonna try and pinch them from you. Hollyhocks are looking lovely. There's one of the white ones. Now there used to be a couple of great mullein plants here, but they've done their flowering, sent up their big spikes, if you look in their previous videos. But once they finish flowering in their second year, then they die. So you then start another lot from the seeds that are created from that, which I should be doing because they look fantastic, the bees love them, and great medicinal uses. The kiwi's got a little bit shaded out, so now that there's a bit more light there, hopefully gonna pick up a little more. And then for next year, hopefully they'll be stronger and taller, so that whatever's growing, it will still be able to make it through. One of the courgettes, as you can see, is now huge. But I've deliberately let this one have one fruit that's going large because it actually slows down production, and at one point I was getting a little overrun with them. So because I also know I've got more young ones being planted, I didn't mind this one going to a marrow size. Or tomato lychee. I've got more squash plants. These are actually winter squash in these ones. I can't remember what variety they are. And we've got more hollyhocks, but pink variety. The Peruvian black mint. So again, this is one that a lot of people will use in place of stuff like coriander. It's lovely. I actually prefer this to coriander. The poplars that were just from this little stem at the base. So this year so far they've gone up and are about 5.5 foot tall. So they were from Gardens for Life in Ireland. They sent me over the cuttings. This one is beautiful, this hollyhocks. My only tall sunflower is probably about 12 foot tall. It's one of the multi-headed ones, so instead of one giant head, you've got lots up there, as you can see. But it's also sending out lower branches that also have flower heads growing on them all the way around. So, and this is one that I didn't even plant, it's self-seeded. So I'm pleased about that. I'll show you the other hollyhocks, because these ones are the big frilly carnival ones. Dark. Pretty stunning. Again, these are edible. So I've not yet tasted them. And this is a great mullein again. As you can see, the big chunky leaves at the bottom, they've died back. I've cut some off and used them as mulch around some of the other plants. But then you get the long flower head spikes. So just letting those dry on there. And then I'll collect the seeds. More squash, and then we've got the achochas. The achochas have been non-stop fruiting. Trying to keep up with the harvesting on these is probably the hardest thing. But as you can see, we've got lots and lots and lots and lots. They did start overtaking other things, so I did cut some of them back. I'm pleased that the tamarillo that I put in the ground seems to be doing well. It's got a lot of new growth. The ones that I've got in tubs over by my polytunnel on the other plot, some of them have actually got big fruits on them, so it's going to be exciting to try those this year. And then see if I can overwinter the one that's out here as well. See if I can keep it protected. As long as I don't think it's the cold so much, because say in the polytunnel it gets just as cold as outside, sometimes even colder. But because I can reduce the amount of moisture in the actual soil, that makes a huge difference. So when plants are going dormant, they don't need the water. So over winter I didn't water. Maybe I watered them once, maybe twice, but only lightly. The whole of last winter, and these were ones that I grew from seed. So golden goji, I stripped this the other day and it's already got more on it. So one of the jujube trees had lots of flowers, but didn't actually set any fruit. So I'm not sure what it is that triggers fruit set on these, whether it's the temperature, humidity, because I know going through the cold weather is not an issue for these guys. They can manage temperatures far colder than the UK has ever reached. As you can see, this is a nice one. Nice and rich green. As you can see, it's still got some. As you can see, it's still got some flowers on. Now I don't mind it sending out shoots nearer the base. They're still above the graft, so it's still the true actual tree that's on the top. Now this one, was this the Li or the Lang? This is the Li. So I've got the two varieties, Li and Lang, which are the two main ones available. I think there are a few more, but these are two more well-known ones. More of the dwarf sunflowers. As you can see, some of the sweet peppers on here. So anyone who seems to think you need to have greenhouses and polytunnels to grow warmer type fruits, veggies, it's not necessarily so. Over here we have the bitter gourds. Let's see if I can find some. There's one. So I still get a fair amount bigger than that. We've got several of them forming on here. So you can see the younger ones there. And there's some on the other side. It's the variegated elderberry, the Madonna. Some ears to add some colour for the pollinators. Blueberry next to the nectarine. So the nectarine's looking nice at the moment. It was struggling at the start of the year when I first put it in, but it seems to have taken hold now, which is great. The bubbleberry. You can see there's some fruits forming. I have bunched a few of these. See if there's any right ones. Oh, I think I spot another ripe one. Let's have a look. Oh, there's another one behind it as well. So let's pick this. Yep. So this is bubbleberry. Now taste wise, it's got a strawberry-ish, maybe a strawberry with a slight tang of raspberry, but sort of a diluted flavour, so they're not intense flavoured like strawberry, but they stay as a nice little bush, as you can see. But just remember, on these they've got thorns on, as you can see. They're just nice to have. There's another fruit back in there somewhere. They're growing right next to some of the perennial onions. I think it's one of the red bunching onions. It's the King Henry, which is think of it as a spinach, but this one's perennial. It's got a nice flavour to it, and then it sends up these seed heads, so which I'm pleased about because I want some more of this. This is the only plant of it that I've got at the moment, which I did grow from seed, but I don't know what happened to the others. So I transplanted this one over here, but now I've got some nice seed, then I'm going to use this because again it comes up in clumps, and again it's perennial, which is the whole base is over here. Majority of it is perennial, and then obviously perennials take a while to really establish and grow to their full size. Like I've got a fig in here which will grow into a fig tree, and as you can see it has got figs on it. And this one's a brown turkey, so these are really hardy, especially in the UK. They have no problems over here, but this will grow to a good size shrub stroke tree depending on how big you let it grow. And the good thing with figs is you can keep them the size you want them. Got some nice pineapple sage growing in there, seems to be happy. It's actually a beetroot going to seed here. And this is just a thornless blackberry. Some celeriac. So as I say, with permaculture it's basically a perennial system on the whole, but because it's just a young system at the moment and you have to allow enough space for everything to really grow, what you do in between is plant your annuals, and that will keep the ground covered, keep life going into the ground. So you just got to remember that all your soil is a living thing, so you've got to keep living things in there. You've got to keep it covered and protected from the sun. So as I say, the space that you're seeing in between isn't actually the main soil. It's got several layers on top of the actual main ground soil. I put initially mushroom compost on, and then a really deep layer of leaf mulch. So it's mainly that these plants are growing into, especially the annuals. The perennials obviously planted a little bit deeper than that, so they go into the base soil as well. But all the nutrients from the mushroom compost and leaf mold will also, as they break down and you water and it rains, the nourishment will actually go deeper. So apple trees. Now, in a lot of the strong winds we had, there was a lot of windfalls, but this variety is L-Star, so this was one of the trees that was already on this plot, on this half plot, but I've noticed lots of insects have got into some of the fruits here, as you can see. So, but I'm happy with the size of the fruits on these, and they should be ready before too long. So it's the size of apple that you'd buy in a shop. And then once I've taken those off, then I can reshape the tree a little more. As you can see, the branches are being pulled down just because of fruit load. But the plum tree that was struggling at the start of the year, I put some mulch around the base from some of the other plants that I was cutting back, and we now have all new growth. Virtually all of the growth on this is new this year because I had to cut a lot of it back. Okay. Now this was interesting because I planted some Greek gigantes. So Greek gigantes is like a soup bean. So I'm going to swap hands here. So as you can see, You get these nice big pods. Now, bean wise, they're a big, if you think of it more like a butter bean, it's that sort of colour as well, but they can even be bigger than the butter bean. Now, a Greek Gigantus flower is snow white, but because these were from home safe seeds, from the ones that I grew last year, I ended up with some that had red flowers, bright red flowers like a scarlet runner bean. So I thought it'd be interesting to see what we end up with. Let me see if there's any dry pods that we can, yeah, there are. So let's open one of these pods and just see if it was, so I don't know if this was from a red or a white one. Ah, so this one is a white bean, so that must have been one of the white flowering ones. As you can see, it's a good sized bean, although they often get even bigger than that. Let's see, so I know there are a few. I did harvest one the other day, but the beans were, yeah, so that was a good guess. As you can see, these are more like the scarlet runner bean. Let me just cut these out so we can see them. Focus. Focus. Here we go. So that was me planting a Greek Gigantus bean, but one from home safe seed. These are all from the same batch of seeds. You can see there's a little bit of size difference. I love the colour on the purpley ones. But both scarlet runner bean and Greek Gigantus are perennial. So once these are finished, I will cut them back, but leave a stalk maybe 6 inches above the ground, and then just make sure I mulch around the base. And then they will come back next year, all being well. Famous last words. So let me just throw those in there. I'm actually just going to throw those in there. Nature can do its thing. That's the good thing about food forest. You haven't got to be too organised. Nature has a way of finding its way through. So that's about it for today. So please feel free to like, share and subscribe. Remember, it costs nothing to subscribe, and if you hit the bell notification, you'll be notified every single time I upload a video. And there's going to be plenty more to come, and I'm also going to be showing you other sections of my allotment because I have 2.5 plots. The food forest just takes off over half a plot. I'm going to gradually be opening up the half that's connected to it and making it more one plot, so the food forest will end up becoming one whole plot. And because I like the style of food forest, I'm also going to look at how I can incorporate elements of it within my other 1.5 plots. So say 2.5 plots. At the moment, half a plot is the food forest, and the other half adjoining it is already semi-food forest. I just want to slightly reshape it so it fits in with the other half. And I will do a tour of that both before I do the reshape and afterwards. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure you subscribe. Take care for now.